Yeah,
We're late, which means we're on time. Yeah. We kept you waiting just to make sure that no one would be here, because no one's here, even though we're 5 minutes late. So
we had to check all our instruments before we flew the plane. So
yeah, we had to go through the checklist. Takes longer in the winter.
Yeah.
Want to check? We had to de-ice the plane.
Yeah. Yeah. So, any big news in your life, Jeremy? It's winter.
My daughter has one final left in her first semester of college, and she's doing pretty well. She had a little bit of a rough final today. She did really well yesterday with her two finals. Today she was a little rockier, but still passed the class, so we're happy about that.
Oh, good.
And tomorrow's her final, which is it's a doozy. It's going to be hard. She's doing a trigonometry final, and
oh god,
it's going to be. Yeah, she's sweating it a little bit, but
yeah.
But she has all day to study tomorrow as well. She's studying today, and then her test isn't until 6 p.m. So
yeah.
So, but in my own life, no, we're just going through big transitions at work. We're shifting all of our data into a new place, and so we're basically building everything from scratch, but with 3 years of experience behind us on how it was broken before and how we could fix it going forward. And so it's been a lot of work. We hired an outside consulting company to help us with some things, and they basically do all of the gathering of all of the requirements and tracking down where all the data is and putting it together, and then I'm building the reports. And so it's a lot of work, but it's good. It keeps me busy. But I don't have as much free time at work as I usually do.
Yeah,
which will be good.
When is the move planned for?
For the data?
Is it just you're not moving physically, or just
not physically? No, we're just. No, it's all, my life is all virtual. I live.
Nothing happens in real life anymore.
No, sadly, that's true. I mean, well, I guess sadly and not sadly. I mean, but yeah, no, my work is all on a computer. My work is all virtual. So yeah, there's no physical component to it. It's just
okay.
But it's a lot of work, a lot of mental work, I should say.
Yeah.
That's the kind of work I get paid for, though, so it's good.
Well, that uses more calories than. Did you know that?
Yeah, I wish it did. Well, I mean, I wish that I didn't also eat more calories to balance it out, but I seem to always be able to exceed my spend. My income always exceeds my outgo when it comes to calories, it seems. Actually, no, this fast is actually going a little better. I'm actually fasting, and there's a lot of times during the day where I go, I'm hungry, and then the other part of me, the Jocko Willink part of my brain, goes, good. So
you got to get rid of that guy. He's living.
No, it's great. No, he's helping me lose some weight. So I'm actually like following the spirit of the fast this year and actually losing weight during the fast. So
that's well, that's good. Yeah. I have to admit, I was a little bit disappointed the first time I realized that most of the people in the parish that I was attending, their fast consisted of fake meat. I was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and as someone who grew up on that stuff, like my mom would mix like TVP with hamburger, like half and half. TVP is like a fake. It's like a soy meat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's awful. And I was like, why would you do that? Yeah. No, we eat pretty simply. I eat
it's probably
potatoes and peanut butter sandwiches, and my wife makes some really great salads.
Yeah.
And then during Nativity Fast, there's a lot more days where fish is allowed. So we eat a lot of fish during this season, which is great.
Yeah.
There's a local restaurant that does a really great fish and chips. We go there and have that. It's nice, like a little weekly date.
Cool.
That's nice. And then we usually eat, some salmon at home or cook up some cod, whatever.
I left a comment on Heavy Things Lightly. What's his name? John Hears.
John Hears, yeah.
He did a thing he did a thing. I think it was the actually the Nathan Jacobs presentation that some of the people that were at South Estuary got to see, because they went. That event was like a week later in Greenville, South Carolina, and anyway, he apparently at the beginning, you know, when he does his intro, he promoted a beef jerky, and I think it was a sponsor for his podcast that day or something like that. And then he said that he was, you know, on a ketogenic diet, and, you know, was just kind of praising this beef jerky. So I wrote in the comment section, "Oh, as a carnivore, I thoroughly approve of this message."
That's funny.
You know, and then I said, and an Orthodox Christian, I said, I do the Middle Eastern fast where I fast at, you know, sundown, right? And somebody wrote me a comment. It's so overly pious, it made me mad. But it was like, "Oh, well, you should check with your spiritual father. You wouldn't want to find yourself in hell, you know, because you fasted wrong." And I'm thinking to myself, if God sends me to hell for fasting wrong, anyway. So I just wrote back. I said, "It was my spiritual father who suggested it," which it was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, to be fair, there are a lot of people who just make up their own fasting rules and just go, "Oh, I'll just do this." And it is good to check in and kind of get a blessing on that stuff, because it is, there's a lot of layers of things going on in the fast. I was our priest gave a talk about that on he gave the homily was on that. Well, I mean, that was part of his homily, was talking about how the fast is actually part of the transformation that's going on physically and spiritually to prepare you to witness the birth of Christ, or, you know, in this case with Nativity Fast, or preparing for Pascha. And it is something, it's not just a spiritual prayer focus, it's also physical. There's a physical change that happens to your body as you're preparing to participate in those events, and fasting is part of that preparation, you know. So
you know, I've given this much consideration. Unfortunately, don't have a priest to talk to anymore. But when you do a ketogenic or carnivore diet, you literally are in a fasting mode. Like your body believes it's fasting, because you start to run on ketones instead of glucose, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I've been doing that for 2 years, Jeremy, almost 2 years. March, it'll be 2 years. And you have no idea how much I would like to eat pizza and chips and fish and chips and hamburgers.
I did keto for about a year, so I do have some idea.
And hot dogs and, you know, and lasagna and spaghetti and, you know, but I literally cannot. I can't. If I do, I could very well land in the hospital, you know? So, anyways, the whole experience for me on carnivore has been one of experiencing what it is to fast, because you have to restrain yourself. You also don't eat very much on carnivore. I eat 1 meal a day. That's it. And there's something else that comes with fasting, especially like if you completely fast. I've never been able to do that yet, but I'm kind of moving. I'd like to do a water fast, like start with a 7-day water fast. And some people do 20 days, you know, 20 days and just water.
Yeah.
But there's a clarity that happens when you're fasting of mind that is pretty intense. And I've always just wanted to experience that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's been so much healing going on in my body that I just have to listen to it, at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know a couple of people who have gotten blessing to do similar to what you're doing. Like, I know one guy, the priest said, yeah, you can stay on meat, but during the fast, you can only do tuna. So he only eats canned tuna for the whole fast. It's
or fresh tuna. Yeah, I guess.
Not in Utah.
Oh, well,
maybe. Okay.
But I mean,
if it's fresh, I wouldn't want to eat it in Utah. It's probably flash.
But there's fish days too, you said, right?
Yeah. But I mean, no, but because he's eating, like, this was during Great Lent, where there's like one fish day, maybe two, I think, in all of Great Lent. He was given a blessing to eat meat, but it was only tuna, and that's all he could eat for the 40 days. So it was just a different form of a fast, But anyway, yeah, he has a blessing from the priest to do that, but it is something that you definitely want to run past your spiritual father, because it's easy to get distracted, or to convince yourself that you know what you're doing. And we don't. So
I have to deal with distraction every single day because my husband is not on carnivore.
Oh, right.
So I make meals.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I can't eat them.
Right.
It's not like I'm just living in a bubble.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying anything about your spiritual practice. Forgive me. I'm speaking generally for the audience. I'm not.
Yeah.
I understand you have your blessing from your priest, and I'm not arguing that or saying that you can't do it, or that.
No.
I'm not saying that at all. I was just trying to kind of make a more general statement for people who are, for the audience more so than you.
I mean, the things that I've thought about in this regard, hi Mandy, are that I for some reason my body won't let me eat anything else. And if I would, force it to, I would probably wouldn't even be here anymore. Honestly.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know how to say this. It feels like, how Samson wasn't allowed to cut his hair? That's what it feels like to me. I'm not allowed to eat anything except that. That's it, and water, no pop, no juice, no nothing,
right.
No carbonated water, not just, and I mean, coffee. Okay.
Yeah.
I can manage it. For some reason, I'm okay with coffee. So I drink coffee, but I don't drink a ton of it. So yeah, anyway, it's just interesting. It's been an interesting experience for me, I don't think things happen for, like, I think God is everywhere present, filling all things, right? So I'm sure that he knows what he's doing in my case, but it's just been interesting.
Yeah. Well, I did keto for a year and a half, maybe about 10 years ago. And it was great. Like, I felt good, but it was very difficult. Honestly, the social impact was the most difficult to deal with, right? Like going out to eat, going to restaurants, going with friends, going to friends' houses, all those things, right? It got kind of, it caused friction, in relationships, like family relationships. Yeah. Wow. Sure. Well, I mean, you're going to someone's house as a guest, and then you're like, oh, we can't eat that. Oh, we can't eat that. Oh, we can't eat that.
Yeah. Right? Well,
I never vegan friend coming to your house and be like, why are you cooking my food in a pan that's cooked meat? Right. It's just like, like that's what it feels like. It felt like it was a violation of hospitality in some ways.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it was difficult. Yeah.
I mean, my family.
Honestly, that was one of the hardest. That was one of the reasons I kind of let it go.
Right. Well, I always hated people like that. People who said I can't eat this and I can't eat that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hosted woofers here, and I allowed, I think for a couple of years, I had vegans, and they drove me insane. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So then I put on my woofing post as a host, I just said no vegans, but I had vegetarians, lots of them. And anyway, I always swore I'd never be that person. So because I only eat one meal a day, if there was a family gathering for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, I'd go and I'd eat before I left. So I wasn't hungry. And then I'd sit at the table and I'd eat turkey and,
Yeah.
And I'd never made a big deal out of it. If you don't say anything, nobody notices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's never really been a problem. And then if someone wants to go for lunch, a friend or whatever, I could just go for wings. Let's go for wings,
Yeah.
If it has a little coating on it, it's not going to kill me.
Right. Yeah, no, you can definitely work around it. It's just it became there were certain situations where we couldn't, and it was just like it got to where it was more trouble than it was worth. It was like, oh.
Keto is actually really complicated. Carnivore is so easy.
Well, keto and carnivore are really similar, honestly. It was very easy.
Yeah, but then with keto, they've got my mother did keto for a long time, and she was constantly baking keto snacks,
Oh, no, I didn't know.
All that kind of like keto.
No, I had steak and eggs for breakfast, and then I had steak and eggs for dinner. That was my keto diet.
Oh, okay.
I mean, really, I didn't do like all the fake pretend foods. Like that all felt weird to me. And like the whole Atkins counting and the fiber offsets your carb and all that. I didn't do any of that garbage. I did like keto, like natural food keto. I did a little bit of the weirdness, but hardly any, because it felt so stupid. It was just like this doesn't make sense. And then you're eating all these sugar alcohols and everything. It was just like, no. I did keto, but really it was like I ate hot dogs and I ate with no bun, and I ate sausage, and I ate eggs and sausage for breakfast, or steak and eggs for breakfast, and usually something very similar for dinner. Ribeye. So mine was like more like carnivore with eggs, but also dairy. Like I had dairy. Like I had
dairy too. Butter,
cheeseburger. Yeah, like I would do all that.
Beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. Those are the
that was it.
Staples. But I can't eat eggs. I'm really allergic to them. I have chickens, and my husband eats lots of eggs, but I don't eat. I haven't been able to eat eggs for years, like decades.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so much for diet.
Yeah, right.
Let's move on.
Well, I hope your nativity fast is going well, or if you're not nativity fasting, maybe look into nativity fasting.
Yeah.
But don't do it on your own. Do it like if you're just some schmo on the street, it's not a good idea to just take it on your own, because you'll end up causing more trouble than you're solving generally. Gonna fall into a pit, so because most people take on too much like too soon, right? That's why it's just good to work with your spiritual father. So anyway,
I wasn't doing carnivore when I first did the fast. I did the Nativity Fast and just about killed myself.
Yeah, it can be really hard. Yeah,
it's hard. Yeah.
All right, well, let's start with a prayer, and then we've got some beautiful stuff to share tonight.
Yeah, cool.
Beautiful lives. So, illumine our hearts, O Master, who lovest mankind with the pure light of thy divine knowledge. Open the eyes of our mind to the understanding of thy gospel teachings, and plant also in us the fear of thy blessed commandments, that trampling down all carnal desires, we may enter upon a spiritual manner of living, both thinking and doing such things as are well-pleasing unto thee. For thou art the illumination of our souls and bodies, O Christ our God, and unto thee we ascribe glory, together with thy Father, who is from everlasting, and thine all holy, good, and life-giving Spirit, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so tonight So I have two versions of the life of Ayed, and one is really long and one is pretty short. And so what I was thinking is I'll read the short one, but there's a couple of parts in the long one that I want to share.
Yeah, cool.
Kind of
Let's do it.
interspersed. So
yeah.
Let me get my glasses.
I'm listening, Jeremy, but I got to go find my dog because.
Okay, sounds good. I will get going here. I'm going to share my screen and we will start sharing the life. We've got, where is it? Nope. Window, that one. Yes. Okay. So this is the first part. So this is the first life I wanted to share is St. Ayed Mac Bricc. And I know I'm not saying that properly. Forgive me if you're Irish. He's an Irish saint. And I was just going to share the first part of it from this longer version of his life. If you have the chance, I would highly recommend looking up his life and reading the whole thing. It's very beautiful, but it's a little long for our purposes tonight. Anyway, here begins the life of St. Ayed Mac Bricc, the sainted bishop of Ayed, who is called son of Bricc, was a descendant of the Uainiel, but his mother was from Munster and drew her origin from the Musgrave Tyre. When his mother was pregnant and the birth was near, a certain prophet came near her home and said to his attendants, "A woman is in labor in this house. If she gives birth tomorrow at daybreak, her child will be great before God and men throughout the island of Ireland." A girl heard this and reported the words to the woman in labor. She responded, "Unless he comes through my side, he will not be born tomorrow." Then she arose and went outside and sat on a rock, and God did this miracle. The head of the child rested above the stone and made a hollow in it after its likeness, which remains to this day. The water in that hollow relieves all the ailments of believers. So now I'm going to switch to the other version of his life that's a little shorter. So, and I will come back to this because I have one more paragraph we're going to share from that, but let me come to this other one and we will share this one. Okay. So this version didn't have the version of his miraculous birth. He was basically stuck. His mother wouldn't allow him to be born until the next morning so that he would be holy but his head hit that rock and he became the patron saint of headaches as a result of that. Although he may not be exactly a household name today in Ireland, November 10th is the commemoration of a saint of the southern Uainiel, whom Kenny has described as one of the few Irish saints, the basis of whose fame is personal and general rather than monastic. Ayed Mac Bricc. Ayed is a most attractive and engaging figure, closely associated with St. Bridget of Kildare and with a reputation for the curing of headaches. He is associated with a number of localities in counties Westmeath and Donegal, and I will return to the Donegal connection in future posts. His life records that despite foretellings of his future promise by no less than 2 of the 12 apostles of Ireland, St. Brendan of Birr and St. Kenneth of Kilkenny, the young Ayed almost threw it all away. No teacher taught the boy Ayed. He was not educated in letters, nor was he trained in religious rules until his young manhood. Until that time, he led a rustic life among the common people, reared by his mother. When he became a young man, he went to his paternal territory so that he might attain his inheritance. His brothers, though, would by no means accept him or give him his inheritance. Seeing this, Ayed carried off a certain girl of theirs, hoping that this loss would force his brothers to give him an inheritance. Sorry, I saw I was getting a message. As Ayed was returning with the captured girl and some companions, he came near the cell of the saintly bishop Ilan. When Ilan saw him from a distance and the angels of God that followed him, he said to his attendant, "Go and speak to the youth on the road so that he might visit with me for a little while." He came back humbly to Bishop Ilan, who said to him, "What do you seek, my son? Paternal inheritance? Look, you have a father who owns the sky and the earth, who will give you a far greater inheritance both in heaven and on earth. Do not seek worldly lands through a wrong. Send this girl to her home." Ayed responded, "Whatever you say to me, I am prepared to do." Which sounds a lot like what the Theotokos said. "Whatever you say to me, I am prepared to do." Accordingly, the girl was sent back. Ayed remained with Saint Ilan in his monastic settlement, obeying all of his instructions.
Mm.
His mentor, having reestablished Ayed on the right path, eventually sends him forth. The saintly bishop Ilan, seeing in his mind the miracles of this youth, called Ayed to him and said, "O son, how have you performed such miracles already at so young an age?" Oh, one example of a miracle that he had already done was he was sent to plow, and he went out to plow the field, and he had 2 oxen, and there was a farmer who came to him and said, "Hey, my oxen died and I can't plow." And Saint Ayed said, "Oh, well, you can take mine." And he took one of the oxen off, so only had one ox, and he had the yoke, but the other side of the yoke was held up, and the ox still pulled the plow through divine power. And then a little while later, another farmer came to him and said, "I can't plow because I don't have a blade for my plow to keep it in the ground." And he said, "You can take mine." And he gave him the blade from the plow and then just kept plowing. And the soil was plowing even though there was no blade on his plow.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and the abbot saw these things, and that's what he's talking about here. How have you performed such miracles already at so young an age? For indeed you rise to the peak of virtue while you have not yet attained the work of self-perfection or entered into a religious life. Go in peace to your mother's land and construct a cell there for yourself. Of all the others, it is not proper that you should live under the hand of man rather than that of God. I had departed from there and founded a cell called Enoch Midbrin for himself, where he stayed and performed many miracles. He was living in a cave. The martyrology of
Angus
commemorates him thus: Ayed, son of Bricc of the kingfolk, he was almost greater than death. He is high in the great kingdom, the champion of the race of 100-battled Khan. While the later martyrology of Donegal records Ayed, son of Bricc, bishop of Sillare in Meath, and of Shliab Liag in I cannot say those Irish words. He was of the race of Fiacre, son of Niall. The age of Christ when he was sent to his spirit in heaven was 588. The Saint Ayed concludes with this story about his death. Oh, there's one other paragraph I want to share from the other one first. Sorry. Hold on a second, let me pull that up again. Stop. Share screen.
So many of these Irish saints we don't know. Is this from the book that you got?
Well, I have a book of his life, but that's the long version, which was one I wasn't sharing because
so long.
Because it's too long, yeah. But so this is but you can find it online. It's been translated from Latin, and this is one that I just copied and pasted from when I found online. So let me actually share that link I'll put that link in the chat. Okay. Maybe. Was it that one? Yep, here it is. So I'll share this link in the chat. So if you want to read his full life, I would highly recommend it. It's very good. Okay. So he had many miracles. So St. Bridget, he was friends with her, and she had a headache, and she was on the other side of the island, and she prayed and asked him to heal it, and he healed it from on the other side of the island. Immediately it went away. There was another man who came to him. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah. On another day, a certain man came to St. Ayed, greatly distressed by a pain in his head, and he said to Ayed, "O holy man of God, I am excessively weakened by this pain in my head, and it is unbearable. Please pray for me so that if it is possible, this pain will pass from me. If it is not possible, at least let it become more bearable." And Ayed answered, "There is no way for your pain to leave you unless it is transferred to me. However, if you will bear your pain patiently, you will have a great reward." And the man responded, "O holy man, this pain is beyond my strength." Then Saint Ayed, filled with compassion, took pity on him, and he received the headache from the man onto himself and bore it patiently, so that the man was free from pain to the end of his life. And Ayed bore the cross like Christ's martyrs. And for that reason, wise men say that anyone vexed by a headache is cured by invoking the name of Saint Ayed. St. Bridget, for instance, when she suffered a most grievous pain of the head, invoked the name of the saintly bishop Ayed, and she was immediately cured of headaches until the day of her death. She used to say, "Invoking the name of Saint Ayed healed me of the most horrible headache."
Hmm.
So yeah, there's innumerable miracles in his life. Here's one. At another time, Saint Ed went to Saint Bridget and said, "I do not have a copy of the Gospels. Would you be able to give one to me?" She responded, "It is not easy for me." Rising, Saint Bridget spreads her hands in prayer, and with the two of them praying in one spirit, a gospel was sent into the fold of Saint Bridget's cloak. She put it into the folds of the saintly Bishop Aed's cloak, and they gave thanks to God and praised and blessed the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So
look at them all.
There's so many miracles. It's stunning, really. This is like one of the most miracle filled lives of a saint that I've ever read. And at this point, I've read a lot of them, and this one is.
Do we have a? But you're not done yet, so yeah.
No, I was just going to kind of get to the end of his, life, because it's miraculous as well. Let's see. I think this was it. Once, when Saint Aed was at his place on the edge of UNL territory, he saw unhappy men ravaging his place on the border of Munster, Enoch Midbrin. He said to his charioteer, "Harness the chariot quickly so that we can go to our place, which needs to be freed from the hands of plunderers." Then Aed, wishing to make the journey quickly, spoke to his charioteer again. "Bend your head under my chasuble so that you will not see anything." At once the chariot and its horses were snatched up into the air, and in the short space of an hour he was led through the air from UNL territory to the aforementioned place in Munster. Once there, he discovered the unhappy men laying waste and carrying off whatever they could find. The two leaders in charge of the others, however, he found fixed to the earth, unable to move hand or foot, as if they were wooden statues. When these wretches saw Saint Aed, they did penance and offered all of them as monks until the day they died. Thus Saint Aed returned unto UNL territory.
Wow.
Let's see. Maybe this one doesn't have his death in it. It just talks about after his death, and then more miracles that will continue to be done after his death. But anyway, so yeah, no, it's this account has so many miracles in it. It's stunning. Yeah, really. So Saint Aed.
Do we have an icon?
Let's take a look. Is that? Nope. I don't know if I don't think we do. Honestly.
Well, are you going to read about his death?
I was going to, but I can't find it.
Oh, I thought it was in the other one that you were.
Oh, maybe it is. Okay, we'll switch back to the other one. Let's do that. Good idea.
I thought I saw it there.
Okay, let's do it.
And I'll look and see if I can find an icon.
Yeah, I couldn't find an icon of him. I found one of Saint Bede, but not him. This one. Okay, here. All right. Oh yeah, there it is. Here it is. So the life of Saint Aed concludes with this story about his death. Saint Aed had promised to allow one of his monks to accompany him to heaven, and so at the hour of his death, Aed said to him, "Prepare yourself so that you might go with me on the heavenly journey." When he proved unwilling, when the monk proved unwilling, a certain pagan who had just arrived said, "If you only had told me to accompany you." Aed answered him, "If you wish, wash yourself and lay yourself down on this bed with me." When he had done these things, he and the saint died together. On the island of Saint Columcille saw this and said, "This work which Bishop Aed does now is mighty. Behold, he leads a sinner, undeserving, with himself to heaven, without any demons bothering him." Indeed, Saint Aed passed to heaven like Christ with the thief, among the sweet songs of the choirs of angels, where he will rejoice without sorrow for eternity with our reigning Lord Jesus Christ, with the Father and the Holy Spirit forever and ever. Amen.
Yeah, I'm not finding one at all, Jeremy, either.
Yeah, well, maybe we need to commission one. Let's see, I have some iconographer friends now. Maybe I should see if somebody wants to make one for me.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So next we have Saint Fiacre. Fiacre? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his name.
He's also Celtic, right? You said? I thought.
What?
Is he also
he's Celtic. Yeah. I thought you said he's also Catholic, and I was like, oh, kind of. Yeah, because there was only one church at that time. Let's see. He's not. Let me share my screen. Find it. Right. There we go. Okay. So Saint Fiacre. And the Lord, so his feast day is August 30th. And the Lord planted a garden Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Holy Scripture abounds in references to gardens, beginning with that most perfect garden, Eden, where men still walked with God. Our Savior spent the last night before his death in the Garden of Gethsemane and was crucified and buried in a garden. Now, in a place where he was crucified, there was a garden. Jesus' parables are also full of references to planting, weeding, and harvesting. It is obvious that God has intended for his people to be connected to this fruitful earth and to make use of its bounty. Historically, monasteries have had a special vocation for planting and tending gardens. After the first monks had fled to the Egyptian desert to live in solitude and monasticism spread to the west, most monastics began to live in community with others and in harmony with their surroundings. St. Benedict in the early 6th century established a rule which soon became the norm for most Western monastic houses. This rule required, in addition to prayer and study, useful work of some kind, and this always included farming or gardening to help provide food for the monastery. In the next century, an Irish hermit became so associated with the art of gardening that he is known as the patron saint of gardeners. Fiacre is believed to have been the son of an Irish chieftain, the leader of a large tuath, or a settlement populated by an extended family, in other words, a clan. His father wanted him to join in leading the clan, but Fiacre desired nothing more than to live a quiet life of prayer and fasting and solitude. He had received his education in a monastery and preferred the life that monks led to that of going to war against rival clans. After several years of life on the banks of the Nore River, where he lived in a cave near a well with a garden for food, Fiacre had acquired a number of followers. Many came to him for words of wisdom or for herbs for physical ailments, and some stayed to share in his quiet life. So, like many others, Fiacre left his hermitage and pursued solitude in exile from his homeland. Journeying to the continent, he settled near Meaux, which is south of Paris, around 626. Fiacre asked the bishop for a plot of land to till to sustain himself, and Bishop Pharaoh offered him as much land as he could turn over in one day. A miracle then occurred, which was a sign of the plans that God had for this lowly monk. As Fiacre moved around the land, carrying his shovel and examining the soil, trees and shrubs fell over, and the ground turned over by itself, ready to be planted, providing the monk with a large farm suitable for many more inhabitants than one solitary hermit. It did not take long for word to spread about this monk and his gift of miracles. His holiness of living was also noticed, and once again many other men came to follow him in this life. Fiacre had to establish a monastery with a pattern of work, study, and prayer for the monks. With wood from the trees which fell and stones from his land, he built a chapel dedicated to the Mother of God. He soon added an infirmary for the many sick who came for help, and he built a hospice for travelers, especially poor pilgrims from his native Ireland. Abbot Fiacre remained in charge of the gardens. This was the work he loved the most, and it was the vehicle for his gift of healing. People came from great distances to receive tonics and salves, as well as prayers from Fiacre, and many miraculous healings resulted. The abbot used very ordinary herbs and plants, and through the healing power of the Holy Spirit, was able to ease the suffering of many people. Even after his death around 670, St. Fiacre's gardens flourished, and throughout the centuries since that time, miracles of healing have been attributed to his intercession. Because carriages could be hired to take people from the Hotel St. Fiacre in Paris out to his shrine, the name Fiacre eventually came to be applied to the carriages themselves. The name is still used for taxi cabs in France, and taxi drivers have also adopted the saint as their patron. St. Fiacre provides us with an example of how we are to use whatever gifts God has given us to help others, and a reminder to rejoice in the beauty and bounty which God has provided in the gardens of this world. We give thanks for the fruits of the earth, and we implore the intercessions of St. Fiacre for the healing of bodily infirmities.
Amen.
And let's pull up an icon of St. Fiacre. We have one of these icons near my wife's garden stuff in the garage, and then we have this same icon on the near the front door of our church, which we kind of have a courtyard and a garden in the courtyard. We've got this icon. Let me share that. And that is St. Fiacre.
So he was Irish, but he ended up in France.
Yeah.
Yeah, people really got around in those days. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, just walking. So
great. That was great. I love it.
And now we have St. Lucy or St. Lucia or St. Lucia, depending on where you live. And I'll share her life. And then I found a couple of videos of ceremony of St. Lucia in Sweden that are just breathtakingly beautiful.
Aren't
that I
they?
want to share after. So
yeah.
But we'll share her life first.
Cool.
So there's some context. St. Lucy was born in Syracuse, Sicily during the reign of Diocletian. She distributed her wealth to the poor and made a vow of virginity. Since she refused to marry him, a rejected suitor denounced her to the prefect Pascasius as a Christian, and she was arrested. She was sentenced to be defiled in a brothel, but with God's help, she preserved her purity. Then the pagans attempted to burn her alive, but she was not harmed by the fire. Finally, she was killed by a sword thrust to her throat. The name Lucy or Lucia is derived for the Latin word for light, which is lux, and so she is often invoked for afflictions of the eyes. There is a tradition that she was blinded by her torturers, and the Church of San Giovanni Maggiore in Naples even claims to possess her eyes. Today's saint should not be confused with St. Lucy of Campania. So her St. Lucy's name day is December 13th. So she lived in Italy, in Sicily, and there are a lot of festivals, and her procession is on December 13th, and it's very similar to the one in Sweden. But one thing that wasn't really shared in this version of her life was that she would go to the prisons to feed the sick and to feed the people who were in prison, like the Christians who'd been put in prison. Yeah. And she was carrying a lot of stuff. So she would she would put a wreath around her head to hold candles so that she could see while she was going at night, but still carry a lot of things with both of her hands. So right. That's where the whole idea of her with a wreath and the candles on her head came from, was that was what she did in order to be able to go to she didn't have a headlamp. So that was her, her Roman headlamp. So she could go feed the prisoners.
Aren't there icons of her holding her eyes too?
I don't know that.
Yeah. I don't know if they're Catholic ones or if they're Orthodox, if the Orthodox have those too, but I've seen one somewhere. I talked about this with Ted, who is Catholic.
Yeah, I see a Catholic one that has it.
Okay.
But I don't see any Orthodox ones that do.
Okay.
I'll share it though. I'll show it. Stop. Share screen. This is the only one I could find that had her holding she's got a plate with her eyes.
Right. But the Orthodox don't have that, eh?
Yeah, not that I could see. This was another. Oh, this is a Greek one. I'm not sure. That's got Greek words, so I don't know if this is Orthodox or Catholic. But anyway, this one she has her eyes. This is similar to Proscovy.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's an Orthodox one. This one is an Orthodox one as well.
Yeah.
But St. Lucy, she's one of the great martyrs who are commemorated every liturgy.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you happen? I think I sent you that conversation about the December the 13th date, and now I've totally forgotten it again.
And I didn't watch the conversation.
There was a calendar. The guy talks about the fact that there was a calendar change. I have to look it up now. There was a calendar change, and I'm not even going to try to say it because something about a loss of 11 days. And I don't know if it's just in Sweden.
Is that tied to the Julian Gregory change? The switch from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar?
Maybe.
Now it's 13 days off, but I think it was only 11 days off when they switched.
Yeah, 11. And so it made her feast day actually closer to Christmas. Originally. Yeah, I'm just going to see if I can find a proper explanation here. Yeah, adoption of the Gregorian calendar.
Yeah.
So it says here, St. Lucy's Day, or St. Lucia, as we say here in Sweden, is a celebration of light when winter is at its darkest. Mm-hmm. Prior to adopting the Gregorian calendar back in the 18th century, the Swedish calendar had St. Lucia falling on the darkest day of the year, which would be the 21st, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The shortest day. The midwinter solstice. You've never heard of the Swedish calendar? Allow me to clarify. Back in the really good old days, most European countries used the Julian. This calendar was developed back in Roman times. Blah, blah, blah. She talks about the Julian calendar here. So it's mostly talks about the Julian calendar.
Yeah, the Julian calendar had 365 days, but it didn't have enough leap years, basically. So because the year is 365 and a quarter day long, the Julian had leap years, but they also they had too many leap years. That's what it was.
Okay, well, because here things changed in 1753 when Sweden adopted the Gregorian calendar. A year after Britain did. Suddenly, St. Lucia was no longer on the dreariest and longest of nights, but as most of us Swedes know, December 13th, according to the Gregorian calendar, is pretty much as dark as December 13th, according to the Julian calendar. So there's ask any Swede to name you a couple of saints, and chances are they will all say St. Lucia. Whether they will all be able to name all that many more is doubtful. Saint Birgitta, Saint Olaf, and maybe Saint Knut may crop up in the conversation. Swedish people don't know much about saints or God.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually kind of interesting because Sweden ended up becoming Lutheran, right? And but they still really celebrate Saint Lucia. So it's just kind of fascinating. And then It would have fallen on the winter solstice originally, but it got pushed to the 13th of December because of the calendar change.
Yeah, and the count, like the churches that still use the Julian calendar, basically, it's like it would still be December 13th, but yeah, in ours it would be after, like it would be before. Anyway, it would be on our December 26th now that, because it's shifted even more since the 17th.
Oh, I see.
So they would be celebrating it on the December 26th, because like Christmas is actually January 7th on the old calendar. Like, okay, December 25th on the old calendar is January 7th on our calendar.
I see. Oh, okay. Yeah.
It slipped. Like theirs keeps slipping more and more.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, because they have too many leap years is what ends up happening. The Gregorian, that was the correction the Gregorians did, was that they remove every 400 years, they take away a leap year.
Oh.
Or like, anyway, something like that.
Well, I'm glad people are organizing our lives, our linear lives for us.
Yeah. Right.
I don't really live by the calendar anymore.
Well, you kind of do. You live by the seasonal calendar, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah.
And it's most apparent in the winter because it gets dark so early, and I find like I'm just ready for bed, and I look at the time, it's 8:30, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, well, that's my feeling too. It's just like, oh, I can go to bed early. Okay, that's fine. Like I don't have fear of missing out anymore.
No.
But okay, so I found this one's really beautiful, and I'll share it first. This is a part of the ceremony, part of the procession that they do in Sweden. They do the same thing in Italy, where they process through the streets and then go into a church and basically have a concert. And this one has English subtitles, even though they're singing in Swedish. So I was going to share this one first, and then I'll share another one that was just very beautiful, but it was in Swedish only with no subtitles. So, but it's kind of the same song. But anyway, so this is very like in a darkened church, and they're coming into a church.
Can you do full screen, Jeremy?
Sure. Anyway, there's a whole concert of other songs devoted to Saint Lucia.
Yeah.
But it's very beautiful. And from the reading I did, like, she was from Italy, but when her story, her renown spread, and when it made its way to Sweden, as Sweden was converted to Christianity, and like Scandinavia, they fell in love with her because, she would bring light into dark places. And, they had such short days during the winter that they found a lot of hope in the idea that this young virgin who was a martyr was bringing light to their darkness. And just as a country, as a region, they fell in love with her. And these commemorations, this one's from 2015, so it's still going on. It's still part of the culture.
Yeah.
And it's very beautiful.
It is. It's really beautiful. I put a link in the chat if anybody wants to jump in with us. You're more than welcome.
I will share one more video. This one, honestly, this one brought tears to my eyes. It was too pretty.
Beautiful. There's nowhere in America that does this. Maybe in an Italian community.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know of any.
Or a Swedish community, actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
Where are all the Swedes in America? Wisconsin?
Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Minnesota? Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Mainly Minnesota and Wisconsin, though.
Yeah.
That's why they sound like you guys.
It's what snow does to your vocabulary.
Yeah, that's what Swedish does to your vocabulary.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Wonderful saints tonight, Jeremy. That was really good.
Yeah, glory to God. Yeah, no, those are all very beautiful lives. And like I said, if you have the time, like I shared the link, I'd highly recommend reading the life of Saint Ayed. It's just crammed full of miracles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And no icon. How do they know all those miracles, but there's no icon? That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Choice being made there or something.
Yeah.
I don't see why, but yeah.
I'll do some more research, see if I can find an icon of him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of the holy wells in Ireland, because we have a mix of two Celtic saints and Saint Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the holy wells, like when I was following Paul Kingsnorth's Holy Wells series that he did on his Substack, which if anyone's interested, those are all not behind a paywall.
Yeah, they're great too. They're really
and
good.
they're really great. He goes to all these different sites. But many of them are for ailments of the eyes.
For what?
Ailments of the eyes.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. And he got a lot of his information from this very old, I don't know when it was made. I don't know when it was made, but they collected the stories of saints from school children. So the school children were given the task of going out into their villages, because there's so many holy wells in Ireland. Some of them were only known by locals. So that's why they gave the children the job, right? So because the children would know everyone, or everyone would know the children. And then they could ask, they would locate the well. And this is a fairly old, if you look it up, Jeremy, school children holy wells project or something, I can't remember. It might come up, and then you will know the year that it was done. And Paul wrote that that's where
1930s.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a historical project to preserve, not lose the places of some of these holy wells, because some of them are just like a rock in a field,
I found a page where they have like,
there you go. Look at that.
It's all handwritten.
Yeah. It's an amazing little oh, they've got all kinds of
yeah, they've got them here.
Those all done by school children? Marriage customs. That's a really, what a fantastic idea. I mean, because the kids would be able to go innocently question people and interview them and find out, stuff.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, I will. And it even has a translation. A sluz, a furrow, is wet bad land. So they have a translating all the
local lingo
words, into English. Oh yeah, here it is. They've transcribed it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to read it, but that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I'll share a link to this. This is going in the chat.
Yeah. That's a cool little resource.
Yeah, very fun.
What's it called?
This word?
The school's collection. It says at the top.
Okay.
The school's collection.
Yeah, Silruis Eocht or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how to speak Celtic or Gaelic.
Oh, look at this. You.
Hello.
Hey.
I couldn't help it.
I'm so glad. I haven't talked to her in ages.
I just love you guys, and I love listening to all the stories. It's so good.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad you enjoyed. Very good.
Beautiful. And those music videos. Oh my goodness.
I know, right?
Yeah. There's a really nice one that we can't show because she's a musician and she's got a huge YouTube channel. Jonna Jinton, Jonna Jinton.
Okay.
She has a song that she does for Santa Lucia. She does it outside. She's got a great channel. She does a lot of traditional Swedish stuff. She's an artist too. And she also collaborated earlier on with some of those Swedish, Scandinavian pagan bands, like pagan musicians. Like, I don't think she worked with Heilung, but another one. But she does these like traditional calls for when they would call their livestock in, these songs. And then she took on this really cool project of recording the ice on the lake by her house when it was freezing.
Ooh, I love
when it makes all its sounds.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, where'd you go, Trace?
She fell into the darkness.
She disappeared.
She needs Saint Lucia to come to her house. Bring a candle.
Oh, darn.
Lost her.
Yeah, maybe her her
internet went out.
Well, they've got solar, but sometimes they run the generator, and when it switches over, if they shut the generator off and it switches back over to the other system, they have a little glitch. Yeah. Anyways, are you there?
I'm coming back. Can you see me?
No, we can't see you yet.
We can hear you though.
Oh, there she is. Okay, we'll remove this one and add this one. There we go.
I'm backstage. The host can see you. The host may add you.
I see you now.
Okay.
You're here with us on the YouTubes. Can you see yourself with us?
Well, she's in there twice. I'm going to kick the one from the studio.
Yeah.
There we go. Now it should work.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Tracy?
Doesn't sound like she can. Hello. We hear you. It's funny.
Oh, she wrote something.
I think StreamYard got confused.
Yeah, I did add you. She's
She's texting you.
Yeah.
She can't hear us. Okay, we'll kick her out.
Yeah.
And then she can come back in.
There we go.
No, it's the idea of the candle, being lit in the darkness and then coming in and filling the space. It's such a beautiful image. And and the song that they sing is really beautiful as well. It's just very it's a moving devotion to Saint Lucia.
You know what I like about it too is that it lines up so beautifully with the cosmological calendar, like with the
right,
which is like God everywhere present, filling all things for me, right? A lot of people mistake, and I like to say it like that. They mistake those anomalies or those things for Christianity taking over pagan things.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's the filling. It's how Christ fills the hierarchy, right, top to bottom.
Yeah.
And anyway, I really love like that podcast that I sent you. They talk about some of the Viking ways of celebrating Christmas. And much of it has morphed into our version of Christmas now, with the tree, the Yule, because it's called Yule. The Vikings called it Yule. There was a fire ritual. The Yule log, he said, was a big log that they put the end in, and they just kept pushing it in, and it was a huge log, right? It was literally a log. And it was a like a celebration of the dead.
Yeah.
So the dead people would put straw on the floor of their houses, and they would sleep on that, and they would leave their beds empty for the dead.
Yeah. The Ukrainians will put, like Ukrainian Orthodox, put straw under their tablecloth, under the plates for their dinner, and that's where, for nativity, and that's where their dead relatives sleep. They believe that their ancestors come on the Christmas Eve and sleep with you, waiting for the birth of Christ.
That is so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just
No,
so
that, I love it. Like, yeah, that's the one I sent you. The guy's a scholar, eh? Like he teaches at Uppsala in university in Sweden. And those guys, that podcast, Grimfrost, those guys did all the everything, all the historical costumes and tools and swords and shields and everything for Vikings, the series, and Game of Thrones.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're amazing. Like they have a shop. Yeah, come back, Tracy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, there she is, right on time.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
What happened?
I'm glad you're back.
My phone, someone was trying to call me and it just cut out, and then I couldn't get back in for some reason. But yeah. I'm just thinking about what you guys are talking about with all that. That's pretty cool. And that's something I really want to learn more about and look into.
What exactly?
Just the whole thing around ancestry,
Oh, yeah.
and the power of it, and the fact that here's a quick thought that I have, my thoughts, my fleeting thought, probably a million people have thought of, but I thought it was pretty epic because it was the first time I thought it.
It was new for you. Those are the best ones.
New to me.
Might be new to us too, Trace.
Well, the idea of reincarnation and how I feel like it's a thing, but it's not, for me, it's not the perspective. I wouldn't take the same angle that's common. That's more or less outside of Christianity. To me, the fact that we are made up physiologically of our ancestors, we carry them with us because we're made of them. And so I kind of think about that, the fact that their lives influence me, but not only that, perhaps I could have a memory of theirs at some point in my life. I could have a visual of something, I've always talked about the whole thing around our, that their ceiling is our floor, and we stand on that. And sometimes, I mean, no matter how difficult their lives were or troubling or whatever, still, it's our ceiling, which means we can go further, in a sense. Anyway, just my thoughts around that and their presence. It's just, Shari and I, our influence as children started later on in life for me. My my Christian walk, it was mostly Protestant evangelical influence, but not deep for me because it wasn't long. My journey in that wasn't that long, I have to say, like sort of where I entered, but not a heck of a lot of learning, just a bit. And so the idea of that whole thing with ancestry is not really big. But then, where I live in my community is indigenous. And so that is big, in the community. And I've learned more how to see the sacredness of it and the reality of it and so on. So it's it's cool.
It's really cool, actually.
Yeah, on that note, I'll share a book. This is a book called God, Where is the Wound? It's this is Mother Silouana, and she's in repose now, but this was a transcription of some talks she gave at a conference in Europe. But she studied kind of the crossover between like trauma treatment and psychology and psychotherapy and orthodoxy, and she was really well versed in the Fiacre, which the Fiacre is like a manual on prayer, that manual on mysticism that was collected by, it was like the writings of different saints and church fathers about prayer and how to approach prayer, and she was well versed in that, and it's basically like the equivalent of Orthodox psychotherapy, like, and she talks about exactly what you're talking about with the fact that our, we're carrying around some of the demons too that affected our ancestors, right? Like their struggles changed them physiologically as well as spiritually, and that also just gets handed down through inheritance and through our genetics, and she talked about the reality of that, and she told one story of like a young man who ended up committing suicide, but the reason was because he was actually like trying to redeem his family line, like he was redeeming his bloodline, and felt like he was trying to like die in place of his ancestors. So she talked about just different kind of aspects of that, and how we are very strongly influenced by our genetic inheritance, and that it's not just, it's a physical and a spiritual inheritance that we have to work with, and then pray for God to heal, and through us being healed through Christ, it heals our bloodline too. It heals our ancestors.
Well, that brings me to something that I've talked about quite a bit, and I think about a lot, but like I'm really bad for details. When I hear things, I think in pictures, and so then I forget some of the details. But a few episodes ago, you and Shari were talking about these things, and Jeremy, you mentioned something that I was like, that's it. I remember hearing about indigenous elders that spoke about how they don't say bless your future. They always say bless your past, because and you told that same story, and you had more facts around it, like where the story came from. And so the idea of it, which I kind of hung on to, was the fact that we have the ability to change the narrative by stepping into the moment that we're in, becomes our past after that moment's over. And so it's like an empty canvas in front of us, and then we have the ability. So if we're walking in a in a bad way, in a wrong way in our lives, we can make a decision in the next moment to change that. And when that does, it changes our past.
Yes.
Which is blessing our past. And when I think of it like that, I actually think in color. I think it can, you're like in black and white, and all of a sudden there's this like a ticker tape of color that goes whipping behind you, and all of a sudden the color's changed. And now you have the opportunity in your life to change everything in your past. Anyway, that you mentioned that a number of episodes ago when I was listening, and I was like, oh, that's that thing I like. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but I mean, in the context of ancestry, like you're saying, I mean, think of that. Like that's a real mind twister, hey?
Yeah. Where you're not only changing your past, but then you're changing their past.
Correct.
Right. By reorienting to it. And and also I think I've been working on this personally, going back into my past and kind of digging up things, and just kind of like, just like really, like I write stuff down, and I go, God, I don't know what to do with this memory. Please help me. And it's almost like asking for the memories to be healed and to reorient my view of the memory. So instead of holding on to all of the things that hurt me in the past, it's like recontextualizing them. Yes, I was hurt, but it's also, it had larger context. I was able to see my parents from an adult point of view and have compassion on them. And in having compassion on them, I'm now able to have compassion on myself and let go of the shame and the guilt that came from my parents trying to do the best they could, but not having a lot of resources. And so because of being able to forgive them, now I can look at myself from an adult point of view, and from a parent point of view as of my younger self, and just say, oh, wow, I did the best I could. And I had to figure everything out on my own. I was left, I was given the message at a very early age that I was on my own, that I was left to my own devices and largely had to just figure stuff out, being oldest child of very young parents. That's just how it was, and now, like you're saying, I'm able to go back and heal those memories by looking at them through the lens of seeing my parents from an adult point of view instead of as their child, and then seeing myself from a parent's point of view. And it really has transformed my relationship with myself and my relationship with my parents. I can see what they did in context, and it's much easier for me to forgive them as a result.
Oh, sorry.
Joy says her younger sister and her always ruminate on how atrocities of the transatlantic slave trade energized particular logismoi within the psycho-spiritual pool of both African Americans and Africans alike.
Yeah, that's great. That's good, Joy.
There's a guy that I listen to, Michael Meade, occasionally. He's actually out of Martin Shaw's old group of friends, storytellers, and those kind of guys. And but he's not a Christian. Michael Meade is not a Christian, but he's great to listen to. But he talked about trauma, and he said, there's no growing up without trauma. If you don't have trauma, you actually can't grow up. And here's the thing, like, especially in connection to this, Joy, just think about this. Like, there were atrocities, but those atrocities, some people suffered and died in the midst of all that atrocity, which is the way it is with suffering and atrocity in the world, right? But some people emerged like butterflies out of a cocoon, out of all of that. Okay. And I can't help myself. I am an optimist. It's why I love God is everywhere present, filling all things, right? And so instead of focusing on the trauma, I like to draw from the strength of my ancestors. I think especially of my Finnish grandmother, whose mother died when she was 5 months old, and her father gave her to her godparents, who were also Finn. And he kind of wandered off into the bush and became an alcoholic and lived in a very, very remote mining town, to which she was sent every summer from a young age. And she was probably the only little girl in that town. God only knows what happened to her there. Okay. A bunch of miners. I know she was wounded, but she never lived it out. She never passed it on. She was always so positive. She made a lot of mistakes in her life. Don't get me wrong. She did dumb things. She wasn't good at making choices, really. But there was something alive and beautiful and vibrant and strong in her that captivated me. And I know it came from the pain that she suffered. Her story doesn't indicate that there was a happy one. Okay? It wasn't a happy story. She went to business school in Toronto at the age of 16, and she married my grandfather, who was a horrible person. Horrible. She was probably very, she was a romantic, actually. She was very much a romantic. And I think that's what saved her. I totally relate to this grandmother, as you can tell.
Well, you're a lot like her, Shari. And it reminds me of that.
But I just want to say, but I draw on her. I look at her story and I say, I want that strength. I want the strength of my grandmother. I want her joy. I want her happiness. I want her romanticism. I will not be defeated. Because
she didn't live out of lack. Yeah.
Because, I was very naive when I first had to go out into the world. And I remember thinking that I couldn't wait to be a part of the world. That's how, this is how my mind was. And I went out into the world, and the first thing that happened to me was I got raped. That was the first thing that happened to me. Okay. And I was like, whoa, that wasn't very nice. Let's try this. And I'm not going to give you the list, but it was just like one traumatic event after another within a 9-month period. And that was my introduction to the world. And I thought, I'm not going to let that define me, because I could hear myself doing it. I could hear myself letting my trauma define me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, no, this is what it means to be a caterpillar in the cocoon. Because you know what happens to a caterpillar in a cocoon? It turns to goo. And it reconstitutes itself into a butterfly.
Yeah.
But it retains the memory of what it was like to be a caterpillar. And this is what we have to change, in my opinion. Right? We're no longer stuck on a slave ship watching our friends and loved ones die around us of disease and squalor. No. We're going to live on that foundation of strength and determination, and the ways that they helped one another and brought joy into one another's lives. That's the butterfly, right? That comes out of that goo. Anyway, I have to preach that sermon. Sorry.
That's good. Well, their ceiling is our floor. And I don't know if you guys heard this one, if I heard it through you guys or what, but I was recently listening to a podcast about saints, and they were talking about the saint that, of course I can't remember his name, but he was praying, and someone asked him, what are you praying for? And he said, I'm praying for my grandfather. Mm-hmm. And he said, what are you praying for your grandfather? Because he was an old man. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm praying for his death, that he would have peace in his death. And they said, what? And he said, yeah, he said, because it would, in the kingdom of God, there's no time.
Exactly.
Right.
And so I'm praying, and that's really, it's really, really been stuck in me since I heard that recently about that. And that's a powerful, powerful thought.
I just think, Trace, in regards to my nanny, I wouldn't want anyone to remember me for the trauma that I experienced. I wouldn't want anyone to pity and mourn my life forever. Any ancestors that in the future, right? Mm-hmm. I would want them to recognize that there was a strength there that was what redeemed my life, actually. Mm-hmm. It was my redemption. And that's how I like to think about my grandmother, you know?
Yeah.
I like to
when
think
I sorry,
part
go
of it
ahead.
that nobody ever saw.
Mhm.
The part
Well,
that
and
was
I wrote
victorious.
her a letter one time, and I said, Nanny, can you tell me more about your childhood? Can you tell me more about you? Can you tell me more about your life?
Mhm.
And she wrote me back and said, I'm sorry, dear, but there's nothing too interesting about this old girl. And it was so much humility in it, you know, because I knew the
I
stuff
wasn't gonna
she's made
dredge it
of,
up.
you
Yeah.
know. Well,
Yeah.
no, and I wasn't asking for dirt.
No, but she
I
didn't
just
want
I just
yeah,
wanted
but
to know something, you know, just anything. I lived
yeah.
here. I met your grandfather there, or, you know, whatever. Just I had hard labors, you know, like whatever it was, right? And then, but I went to see her when I had our two girls, and I remember she couldn't speak because she had a stroke, and we were all together then because we went back. Remember,
Mhm.
we went back
Yeah.
and we went to see her in the hospital, and I
Yeah.
hadn't seen her in years. And I remember laying down beside her on the bed, and I put my hand on her face and I looked in her eyes and I just said, Nanny, I know you can't say anything to me now, but I knew she was all there. I could see in her eyes she was just all there.
Yeah.
And I just said, I want you to know something. You know, I'm married now. My husband is a good person. He's a good man. I have beautiful kids. And I just talked to her about who I am and where I'm at in my life. And and then after shortly after, she cried. She had tears rolling down. And then I
Mhm.
kissed her up, and that was the last time I saw her. And then when I heard she passed, I was just taken by the beauty of her family all
Mhm.
around her sons and her grandchildren and her great grandchildren, because we were around her that day, not the day she died, but that day that I had with her.
Yeah.
And I wept at the grace of God in her life
Mhm.
and the blessing of God in her life, because I also saw her suffer, right?
Yeah.
When our grandfather divorced her and she ended up in a shitty little backstreet apartment in Cobalt, Ontario, you know, at the back end of a bar. Like, I just remember thinking, this is not my grandmother. Like, what is she doing here? You know? And yeah, so yeah, I was thinking about that when you're talking about it.
Mhm.
The beauty of it, the blessings that she had in her life.
Mhm. You know, my son said to me once a number of years ago, "Mom, I just want to thank you for not passing on your pain." And I was just like,
Mm.
Oh, wow.
because I never wanted that to happen.
Mhm.
And I, you know, at the time, you know, my determination not to do that, it was it was an effort on my part not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but that's what my grandmother was like. That's what Nanny was like. She didn't pass on her pain.
Mm.
Yeah.
So another comment from Joy Sherry. Yes, there is a great medicine simultaneously woven into and quickened by atrocity. Next month, Moses the Black, directed by Yelena Popovich of Man of God, is being released.
I saw that, Joy. I
Ooh.
saw that,
Goosebumps.
Yeah, that'll
I
be
saw
good.
that trailer or advertisement for it. I don't think
Mhm.
it was
Yeah,
a trailer, but yeah,
yeah.
I love
fantastic.
you, Joy. I miss you.
You know, Tracy, I was gonna related to the story about your grandmother. I was gonna, well, I mean, both of you sharing the story of your grandmother. It reminded me of a conversation I had with my wife actually earlier today, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, but I think it's a beautiful insight, and it's totally related to what we're talking about. It was the idea, like this idea of changing your narrative of the past. So, you know, we've had a pretty rough marriage, and you know, we both left our prior spouses to be together, and you know, and she had two girls when we got married, and they were young, like 3 and 5. And you know, we fought a lot in front of the kids, and it was not good. You know, we were not emotionally mature at all. But my wife has always felt a lot of regret and anger over making the decision to marry me or be with me or whatever. She's had a lot of, just felt like it would have been better if we wouldn't have fought, or it would have been better if she would have stayed with her first husband because they got along better and all this stuff, right? And, she said just recently she was talking to someone else and she's like, I couldn't even believe I was saying it. But she said, her kids have all come to her and said, Mom, it's okay because we are who we are because of the pain we've gone through. And we're doing really well. Both my daughters have wonderful husbands who take very good care of them, very loving, and they have great relationships with their husbands, and they chose good men who take great care of them. I'm so happy and relieved by that. And they have good lives. I mean, they're both very successful. My oldest stepdaughter is a Latin teacher at a private Catholic school, and my middle stepdaughter is a nurse at a NICU. And they're just phenomenal people. And they both have said, it's okay. The pain that we went through turned us into who we are. And my wife, it finally dawned on her. She said, because she's always felt conflicted over.
Oh, sure.
I loved my daughters and I would do anything for them. I would die for them. But then at the same time, I did all these traumatic things and caused all this pain for them. And she said, it's only recently where she realized that those were actually not at odds with each other.
Oh, at odds. Yeah.
Because of the pain that they've gone through, they are who they are. And she said, so honestly, when I look at it that way, I would do it again. In a heartbeat.
Wow.
If I go through the trouble and all the pain of having a rough marriage and not having a happy marriage and not being comfortable or not being, being at odds with my husband constantly, if it would mean that it was transforming my daughters, I would do it again. And it really, this whole thing just really ties into exactly what we're talking about, where it's for her, for a very long time, she's been carrying this heavy burden of feeling like she ruined her daughter's lives. And now she's finally accepting that God has transmuted that suffering into healing them and showing them how to live a good, healthy life in a good, healthy marriage. Both of them. It's just it's a beautiful transformation. Yeah.
That's how God works, because he's everywhere present, filling all things.
Let everything that hath breath praise the Lord.
Amen.
That's another one I like.
Amen.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, that's good. Thanks for sharing that, Jeremy. That's a good story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's this book that I read called The Spell of the Sensuous, and he spends quite a bit of time talking about the Aboriginal people of Australia and the idea of song lines. And what's so beautiful about their tradition of song lines, it's kind of complex actually, but they map out the country on these song lines, but the song lines are also their territory. And it's ancestral. It's also where babies are. So they, when the woman walks on her husband's song line, they didn't believe that children were conceived when you had sex. They believed that the man prepared the woman to receive the child from the song line when they had sex. And so the first time a woman felt the child moving, the child in their tradition was jumping up from the song line into the womb. But the song line belonged to all the ancestors, right? It belonged to the father and the father's father and the father's father's father, and but they each have to learn their own song. It's so freaking powerful.
So powerful. Wow.
They walk this song line and they learn their own song. I mean, I can't even do it justice. But it was endlessly fascinating to me, because the depth psychology of this whole very complex way of mapping the world physically, spiritually, and psychologically. Okay?
It's everything. It's all of it.
It's everything. It's incredible. Like it's really like mind-blowing, actually.
Well, and I hope this doesn't sound tangential or irreverent, but I think it's related. They have recently discovered a way to jailbreak all of the AI models, and it is by using poetry.
Jailbreak. What is
So
that?
you can so they put all these restrictions in place where they won't, like, if you ask certain questions, how do I make a bomb? How do I make a nuclear bomb? How do I, how do I do this? How do I assassinate somebody?
Yeah.
It will just be like, hey, can't talk about that. But if you ask it in the form of a poem, you can get around the restrictions, right?
So you
The
can
poetry,
you can make it say things to you
that it's not supposed to say, right?
Oh, interesting.
Using poetry as a cipher, basically. If you're asking these questions in a poetic way, the poetry basically like tricks the AI.
How do you think that works?
I think it works because poetry uses language in a different way, right? So it's been trained mostly on prose. And when you write something in poetry using rhyme and you're changing the way a word is being used, or you're giving it multiple layers of meaning, the AI, that doesn't match the model at all. So you're not tripping the trigger. Like it's looking for certain patterns in your language. And when you use poetry, you're jumping out of those patterns that it's been trained on. So it doesn't recognize that you're pulling the trigger of, no, don't go there. Right. It doesn't raise any red flags because it's like you're wearing camouflage. Poetry is like camouflage for AI. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So it's like bucking the facial recognition thing.
Yes, exactly. Right.
But what's interesting to me about poetry is that poetry is full of chimeras.
Right.
Which is the way I like to describe metaphor, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, it's incarnational. So you're actually patching together things that don't belong together.
Right.
Which so I'm wondering why that is it just simply unrecognizable to the artificial
it understands what you're talking about well enough to understand what you're asking, but because you're asking it in a poetic way, it doesn't trip its triggers to say no. I can't talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, interesting, eh?
Yeah, it's pretty, and it works on all of them. It's pretty great.
Wow.
This is just an article that came out this week. I kind of track that stuff just because of my work.
Yeah.
It's related to my work. I kind of have to pay attention to what's going on in those spaces. But yeah, it's really interesting that poetry is like it's because it doesn't have context. Like AI just doesn't have context, right? So here's a funny example. Just today, I called my wife and I was using the voice command on my phone, and I was saying, call first name, last name. And in my phone, I have first name, wife, last name, right? So I have the word wife in there.
Yeah.
But I didn't say that.
Just to remind yourself, Jeremy, in case you forget.
Mainly for other people, when they get my phone, they'll know which one is my.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so that I don't forget. Like, oh, okay. Anyway, I just said first name, last name, and it changed it. It even recognized it. It recognized, again, my wife has a name that's not spelled normally, so it recognized my wife's name, and it said calling, but it changed it, and it said calling Dan Firth, and Dan is my uncle, and it was just like, what? Like, because I didn't say the word wife,
right?
It thought I mispronounced it, or it just didn't know what to do, and so it like
called. Oh, it's like it was correcting you.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what? Like, any human understands that I'm just using a shortened form. I'm just not doing the middle name. AI is like, no, we can't. We don't know what you're talking about. You obviously made a mistake.
Speaking of poetry, can I read you guys a poem by William Blake?
Sure.
because I read it the other day and I just thought, I mean, a lot of people listen to William Blake and they're like, what the hell is he talking about? But I think, I don't know. We're all familiar with the first verse, or most of us are. Auguries of Innocence, it's called. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. You know, I was thinking about this poem when you were mentioning the thing with AI, because my first thought about that was poetry is incarnational.
Mm-hmm.
And those opening lines from William Blake are like really indicative of that, right? Like there's a marriage of heaven and earth in that, right? Holding infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in 1 hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you have to say, well, how do you do that? Well, that's by being present, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you're present, 1 hour can be forever. It can be forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and I had never read the rest of the poem. I only ever knew those lines, because they're famous. A robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. A dove house filled with doves and pigeons shudders hell through all its regions. A dog starved at his master's gate predicts the ruin of the state. That one really hit me.
Mm.
A horse misused upon the road calls to heaven for human blood. Each outcry of the hunted hare a fiber from the brain does tear. A skylark wounded in the wing, a cherubim does cease to sing. A skylark wounded in the wing makes a cherubim stop singing. Okay? I mean, this is, this reminds me of the poem by American. This is a Celtic. It's apparently the oldest Irish poem ever recorded. Traditionally that's the first poem ever composed in Ireland.
Is it a limerick? Is it a limerick?
No.
Oh.
It says, I am the wind which breathes upon the sea. So it's written by American, the chief poet of the Milesians, as he steps ashore to take possession of the land on behalf of his people. This is what he says. I am the wind which breathes upon the sea. I am the wave of the ocean. I am the murmur of the billows. I am the ox of the 7 combats. I am the vulture upon the rocks. I am a beam of the sun. I am the fairest of plants. I am the wild boar in valor. I am the salmon in the water. I am a lake in the plain. I am a world of knowledge. I am the point of the lance of battle. I am the God who created the fire in the head. And then O'Donoghue says, there is no dualism here. All is one. For American, I am because everything else is. I am in everything and everything is in me. And so that's what William Blake is saying, right? A skylark wounded in the wing, a cherubim does cease to sing. The gamecock, clipped and armed for fight, does the rising sun affright. Every wolf's and lion's howl raises from hell a human soul. He who respects the infant's faith triumphs over hell and death. The child's toys and the old man's reasons are the fruit of the 2 seasons. The questioner who sits so sly shall never know how to reply. He who replies to words of doubt doth put the light of knowledge out. That one hit me too. He who replies to words of doubt doth put the light of knowledge out. And I thought, that's interesting, because when you're in doubt, you don't really want an answer, because you realize you need to find your answer. You just need someone to accompany you on that road, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't answer. The strongest poison ever known came from the Caesar's laurel crown. These are just like jam-packed sentences here. Naught can deform the human race like to the armor's iron brace. When gold and gems adorn the plow, to peaceful arts shall envy bow. A riddle or the cricket's cry is to doubt a fit reply. The emmet's inch and eagle's mile make lame philosophy to smile. He who doubts from what he sees will never believe. Do what you please. If the sun and moon should doubt, they'd immediately go out.
That's so good.
To be in a passion, you good may do, but no good if a passion is in you. The whore and gambler by the state, licensed, build that nation's fate. The harlot's cry from street to street shall weave old England's winding sheet. The winner's shout, the loser's curse, dance before dead England's hearse. Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Some are born to sweet delight. Some are born to endless night. We are led to believe a lie when we see not through the eye, which was born in a night to perish in a night. When the soul slept in beams of light, God appears, and God is light to those poor souls who dwell in night. But does a human form display to those who dwell in realms of day? What he's talking about there, when he talks about the night and the day, he's talking about an infant in the womb and then a person who dies, right? Which was born in a night to perish in a night, right? It's darkness because it's unknown, but it's sleeping in beams of light. And then he says, God appears and God is light to those poor souls who dwell in night. But does a human form display to those who dwell in realms of day? When everything is made explicit, but you see nothing, Anyway, I just had to share that because Jeremy said poetry and my mind just went right straight to this because I've been thinking about it for a couple of days. And, we would do so well to just read that over and over again and try to ponder exactly what Blake was seeing when he wrote that, because he was so prophetic, like he was intensely prophetic. But that very first part about the animals reminded me of the American poem. I am everything and everything. I am in everything and everything is in me. So you suffer with the whole world. And that's to me what poetry is. And I'm always struggling for a description, and I just want to call it incarnation. It's when, or symbolos, when you throw things together, it's an empathic resonance. So anyway, I went off on a tangent. Sorry, guys.
No, it's good. Whatever I was going to say just disappeared. Just went away. Sorry, forgive me.
No. What did you jump up for?
Just floated. There was some noise in the background. I had to.
Oh, I thought you were getting a book or something. I was excited.
No, I had to address some noise that was in the background. That's why I had my mic muted, but we got to fix it.
Oh, okay.
But no, what you were saying, especially that one poem where I am everything, and like connecting to everything is very in line with stuff I've been reading in the church fathers lately about just the idea that we are a microcosm, and that when, like in prayer, that's eventually what you're doing is you're turning inside of you, you're lowering into your heart, you're descending into your heart. And as you descend into your heart, you realize that your consciousness is related to everything else. And if you don't keep your consciousness awake and attached to the source of life, then it won't just affect you.
Yeah.
Because you're related to everything. You're tied to everything.
Right. It'll
And
ripple.
there's an awareness that grows in you that of your connection to everything, and how everything is inside you, like the whole universe is inside you. And that's what you're beginning to explore as you get deeper into prayer, is this idea that the separation that you feel between you and everything else is a convenient construction of your mind, but is really not as real as it's very hard to actually just determine the border of it once you start exploring it. It's hard to know where you start in another person, or where you end and another person starts, especially when you start talking about, like you were talking about earlier, ancestors and memories.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Our relationships with other people, and how we are transformed by the people around us and they're transformed by us. And how do you unwind that? Who would I be if I hadn't been married to my wife for 23 years now? Who knows, right? Like, I can't, and I couldn't, even if I ended that now, it's not like I could go back. It's not like I could undo what's done, it's like, but that's just an easy thing to think about or grasp, but that just spirals out, that influence, and those waves. I mean, that's why they talk about being very careful about what you read and what you listen to, because we're much more permeable than I think we like to think about. I think that's kind of what I've woken up to in Orthodoxy is two things. One is that we're very much more permeable than I was previously aware of, or when I was younger. And then two, related to the kind of the more of the what we were talking about a few minutes ago, like the religion of America, like the cultural religion of America, and I don't know if it's broader than America, but it's definitely very prominent here, is that this idea that suffering is like anathema, like suffering is the worst thing, and you should do anything you can to avoid it, and any suffering that you experience is the result of tyranny. And that is really popular view nowadays, and Orthodoxy really just like completely turns that on its head. And it's kind of what we were talking about earlier, where suffering is all of a sudden, when suffering has meaning and suffering has a purpose, and it's embedded in a larger, more eternal framework, all of a sudden it's easier for you to not be afraid of suffering and to accept suffering. And then actually, eventually the goal is to thank God for your suffering.
Jeremy, that all of that reminds me of Father Roman Braga when he talks about his experience in in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, I think I asked you this last week. I don't remember what the words he used were, but I think he said there are palaces inside of you or something like that.
Yeah, everything is inside you. Yes.
And I was reading in Annam Carr the other day, and this reminded me of Father Roman Braga. He says, there is no spiritual program. In our time, there is much obsession with spiritual programs. Such spiritual programs tend to be very linear. The spiritual life is imagined as a journey with a sequence of stages. Each stage has its own methodology, negativity, and possibility. Such a program often becomes an end in itself. It weights our natural presence against us. Such a program can divide and separate us from what is most intimately ours. The past is forsaken as unredeemable. The present is used as the fulcrum to a future that bodes holiness, integration, or perfection. Right? That's how we use these spiritual programs.
Right.
When time is reduced to linear progress, it is emptied of presence. Meister Eckhart radically revises the whole notion of spiritual programs. He says, and this really shocked me when I first read it, he says, there is no such thing as a spiritual journey. If a little shocking, which it was to me, this is refreshing. If there were a spiritual journey, it would be only a 1/4 inch long, though many miles deep. Right?
Yeah.
If there were a spiritual journey, it would be only a 1/4 inch long, though many miles deep. It would be a swerve into rhythm with your deeper nature and presence. The wisdom here is so consoling. You do not have to go away outside yourself to come into real conversation with your soul and with the mysteries of the spiritual world. The eternal is at home within you. The eternal is not elsewhere. It is not distant. There is nothing as near as the eternal. This is captured in a lovely Celtic phrase, quote, the land of eternal youth is behind the house, a beautiful land fluent within itself. And, when I read that, Jeremy, I thought of that conversation with Father Roman Braga when he talked about how that he was a scholar and he had no books and he had nothing to write with and he had to travel into his interiority. And, I don't think he said this, but it implied to me the verse where Jesus says, in my Father's house are many mansions.
Yeah.
And the kingdom of heaven is in you.
Yeah. Well, and that's in my Father's house are many mansions. And I'm going to have to go back and find out what Father Roman Braga said. Because he used a term like palatial or palaces or something like that inside of him. And he really stresses that that's what you have to do. That's the work you need to do. Right. It's to go.
That's the spiritual. To me, that's the journey. And it's spiritual, but it's physical. And it just ties it all in. And it's kind of like what happens. Like it's tying what you guys have been talking about for it's tying it all in for me. Even what Jeremy's sharing about his relationship and his family, what you're talking about with Nanny. It's kind of like our lives, our stories, and then with the indigenous people, the ones who, it's that whole thing around walking the line, the song, and there's a saying, there's a word here for humans that's translated as people of the earth. And I think that I was thinking of that as well when you're talking about AI, because with AI, there's no love. There can't be any love in it.
Right.
It's a sounding brass and a tingling cymbal, right? It's
right.
I can speak with the words and the knowledge of,
tongues of men and angels, but it has no love.
I can know all the mysteries. I can know everything, but if there has no love, it means nothing. And but our walk in our our spiritual life, which is, to me, it's being people of the earth is our spiritual life.
Yeah.
Because it started here, it's ending here, and it's what it is. So, and then when we're talking about like not you feel like you can't go back. If you could go back to change it, would you? Because it made you who you are today. And I think that plays into, as we get older, I feel so much comfort in that when I'm talking to younger people about their lives and their marriage and things coming up and parenting and all these trials and stuff, I have no opinion anymore. It's like you're saying, Shari, with doubt. It's like you have nothing to say, because it really does have to. There's an old saying, it has to all play out. It has to all play out. You have to get there.
Yeah.
And no one can make you get there.
No.
Right.
Because we're people of the earth.
Yeah.
And we have to walk our story and live our story. And that's spiritual life. Because in the end, they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word
of their testimony.
Their story.
Their story.
And so, yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Was that the book you were reading when you were telling me? I was telling you about my dream, and then you said, I've just been reading about that.
Yeah, and listen to this. So the page later, after I read you about American, to be natural is to be holy.
Oh.
In the west of Ireland, many houses have open fires. At wintertime, when you visit someone, you go through the bleak and cold landscape until you finally come into the hearth, where the warmth and magic of the fire is waiting. A turf fire is an ancient presence. The turf comes out of the earth and carries the memory of trees and fields and long gone times. It is strange to have the earth burning within the domesticity of the home. I love the image of the hearth as a place of home, a place of warmth and return. In everyone's inner solitude, there is that bright and warm hearth. The idea of the unconscious, even though it is a very profound and wonderful idea, has sometimes frightened people away from coming back to their own hearth. We falsely understand the subconscious as the cellar where all of our repression and self-damage is housed. Out of our fear of ourselves, we imagine monsters down there. Yeats says, man needs reckless courage to descend into the abyss of himself. In actual fact, this is so good. In actual fact, these demons do not account for all the subconscious. The primal energy of our soul holds a wonderful warmth and welcome for us. One of the reasons we were sent onto the earth was to make this connection with ourselves, this inner friendship. The demons will haunt us if we remain afraid. All the classical mythical adventures externalize the demons. In battle with them, the hero always grows, ascending to new levels of creativity and poise. This line is insane. Each inner demon holds a precious blessing that will heal and free you. To receive this gift, you have to lay aside your fear and take the risk of loss and change that every inner encounter offers. And I mean, I went through decades of a recurring dream, which is too long to get into, where I did all that. Like, when I was reading that, I was thinking to myself, that's the work that I did. Like, I even went to the desert, like the desert fathers, in a sense. And I battled with demons, literally, for several years. Like, I went, and I'm not boasting or anything. It's just, these stories that we talk about, that we share, that we read about, that are true, that happen, they happen on all levels. They happen all the time, every day. Right?
Right. Yeah. Recently I was listening to Father Turbo talking about mystical experiences, and he said, one of the problems in our culture is that a lot of people have experiences with psychedelics. And he said when they come into Orthodoxy, they think that a mystical experience is going to be somehow very similar to a psychedelic experience. He said what they don't understand is that...
I'm listening. I'm just going to be right back.
Sure. What they don't understand is that a mother cooking a meal for her family out of love is having a mystical experience. because she is connected to something larger than herself. She's not thinking of herself. She's doing something for, out of love, and it's self-emptying, right? It's kenosis, where she's not aware of herself as she's doing that. She's doing it out of love. And when a mother hears baby crying in the night and wakes up and goes immediately and comforts the baby, feeds the baby, whatever, that's a mystical experience. That is prayer.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is like recognizing, a lot of the poetry you were sharing, stuff like that, seems to really be pointing at this idea that the mystical experience is constantly there. Like God is calling to your heart from morning to evening, and even from evening to morning, just hoping you'll notice that all of the ways that he's coordinating your life and all of the things he's doing for you. And that's mysticism. Mysticism is seeing God moving in all things, right?
Jeremy, this is why. Hi, Chad, and good night. This is why, for me, the Theotokos is so special. Because like you just described, God is constantly calling us. Like Jesus said, behold, I stand at the door and knock.
Yeah.
Right? It's an ongoing thing. He never lets up. And it's not like we refuse him. We just don't even notice.
Right.
Okay? We're not listening. We don't hear it. We're distracted. We're missing the mark, right? We're missing it. And the Theotokos does. She hears it. She hears the call. She hears the request. She gives her answer. She gives her consent, She enters in, right?
Yeah, it was the same as the story from St. Ayed, where he just said, I'm ready to do whatever you say.
Yeah.
I should do. Right.
Yeah.
And St. Nicholas, the same thing, right? They were going to call him to be bishop, and he was walking up to the stairs, and the archbishop asked him, "Are you Nicholas?" And he said, "Yes, and I'm your servant." Right. Not knowing why the archbishop was asking him.
Right. Yeah. And, I often think of Samuel when he was a little boy and he gets up in the night because God's calling him.
Yes. Yeah.
And he goes to the priest, and the priest is like, I didn't call you,
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating to me about that story is God doesn't say, not him, I'm over here.
Right.
He has to find God.
Yeah.
Samuel has to find him. And so finally Eli, the priest, realizes God's calling him. So he says to him, I can't remember what does he say to Samuel?
Yeah, he says, the next time you hear that, just say, "Here I am, Lord."
Oh, here I am.
Yeah, here I am.
Oh, that just gave me goosebumps, because that's exactly what Abraham says.
Yeah.
And Moses.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah.
And the bizarre thing is, Moses says to God, "Who are you?" And he says, "I am."
Yeah.
And what's our response to him? It's, "Here I am."
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Theotokos says too, right?
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah.
What is the scripture where it says, if you look for me, if you will find me, right? But I remember looking at it one time, and I'm not sure if it was a translation or what, but it actually says, if you look for me, I will make myself known to you.
Yes.
And so for me, that's that thing again, right? That's and what that poem was saying is that it's in us, that when you seek me, I had a visual one time when running around as a child and saying, where are you? Trying to look for somebody, right?
Yeah,
hide and seek. But he says, but if you look for me, I'll make myself found to you.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't just make you dig and dig and dig. When you just take that step, he says, I am here, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's his name said. That one guy, Samuel
And Abraham.
am.
And Moses.
I am. Yeah, I am, which is
Here,
God's
here,
name. I am.
and John O'Donoghue, man, he's helped me so much to notice these little things. He said we just don't realize how here we are. Like you were saying, people of the earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what these men of faith say. Here I am, right?
Mm.
Here I am. There's no there's no linear time, actually.
Yeah.
They're in the eternal.
Father Moses kind of has a funny thing about that. He calls it the demonic time machine. And he said the demons are always trying to either get you in the past and feel dread or feel
regret.
Dread for your past, or they're always having you in the future where they want you to feel anxiety. And
that they never want you to be here.
Yeah, they don't want you to be here. They're always just trying to get you to either live in the dread of the past or anxiety of the future. It's the demonic time machine.
Exactly. Fear. And that's what he says there. If we fear them, they will haunt us.
Mm-hmm.
I had a dream one time, and it was during a intense number of years in my life. But I had this dream that, and life-creating mysteries. Yeah. Witness. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I was just going to go there. I'm all about the with.
But it just reminded me of that because, I mean, I almost hesitate to tell it because it sounds kind of, anyway, it was at the culmination of a lot of things, but wasn't the final battle. But a demon picked me up in a roller coaster car. Okay, this was just, it wasn't lost on me that a demon would pick me up in a roller coaster car.
In an amusement park.
That sounds familiar.
And I'm like, he says, don't be afraid. I just want to show you something. I said, okay. So I got in and we went on this little celestial, ride. And he brought me to all these other demons who had, he was the king of this and he was the king of that and he was the king, and I'm like, okay, so what's this all about? And it was like a roller coaster ride. Okay. And he said, well, you can be a part of this if you want. And I said, oh, okay, this sounds familiar. And then I said, what do I have to do? And I wasn't like gung ho. I just wanted to find out what his answer would be. What would I have to do if I wanted to be a part of it? He said, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Do nothing. Don't move. You have, and he actually said you have to remain static. That's what I want you to do. Mm-hmm. And I said, I can't do that, which is true. I can't sit still, right? I'm busy. I'm a busy little beaver. And so, and he said, oh, you want to play rough? That was kind of how the dream ended. There was some other stuff, but I'm not going to tell it. But, it was like that for me was such an eye opener. Because then I started to see the demonic in other people. And it was a combination. Well, it was paralysis mostly, right? Which is stasis.
Mm-hmm.
And what paralyzes people more than anything is regret and fear.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The past and the future.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And when you are there, you're exactly where they want you to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because you
demonic time machine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And he said to me, I don't want you to move not even an inch. Not even an inch. Didn't say anything about going down to miles deep, but I didn't know anything about that at the time. But I ended up, that ended up being the journey anyways. But yeah, that came to my mind when you were talking about that, Jeremy, because the demonic time machine is a roller coaster that paralyzes you with regret and fear.
Yeah.
There you have it.
That's powerful, Shari. That's amazing. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Well, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, Jeremy, my friend.
Whoa. Okay, well, I'll share one funny meme to go out on.
Okay.
It's a funny but useful meme. 1 second. Let me pull it up here. This is Father Turbo.
Welcome. You joined Orthodoxy because of all the problems in the world. Glory to God. You'll soon find out the problem is you. Yeah.
Well, this is so. Just to kind of give a little context to this, there was a story I read about there was an elder, at a monastery, and he had a spiritual son come to him and say, "Hey, I want to move to this other city. My job wants me to move, and I'm coming to get your blessing." And the spiritual father said, "Well, how do you feel about your current town?" And he goes, "Oh, I hate it." It's like, I'm really excited that my job actually asked me to move because the people are rude and it's very noisy and messy. And I really don't like being there at all. And the elder said, "Well, I think you'll find that the other city is pretty much the same as the one you're in. And I don't give you my blessing to move. You'll find it's messy and noisy and the people are terrible. It's even worse." And then later in the same day, he had another spiritual son come to him and said, who lived in the same city as the first guy, and then said, "Hey, I want to move to this other city." And it was the same city that the other one wanted to move to. And he said, "Oh, why do you want to move?" He said, "Well, my mother is very sick and I need to move there to take care of her." And he said, "Well, what do you think of your current city?" And the man said, "Well, I love it. It's beautiful. There's this little place I go down and get a pastry, and I'm friends with the shop maker, and I'm going to miss it. It's going to be terrible. It'll break my heart because I have so many friends, and I love my city." And the elder said, "Well, I give you my blessing to move because you'll find that this other city has really nice places and there's really great people there, and you'll be able to make new friends very quickly." And it's tied to that idea of, the problem is you. It's like they say that a saint can't go to hell because even if a saint is sent to hell, he won't notice he's in hell because heaven's in his heart. He's living in heaven already.
That's powerful.
And that's it seems related to other things we've been talking about tonight of you're seeking God in your heart, but the first step before that is you find your dark, weak, helpless self who is completely broken and has no hope. And then once you find that, that's who you have to stand. That's who you bring to stand in front of God.
Yeah, and how
you realize how powerless you are and how dependent you are, and that is when that's when you start finding the heaven.
Yeah, and you stand when you stand before God, you stand boldly, right? Not out of fear.
Not at first.
Well, when you approach, according to the scripture, right? Not given a spirit of fear, but a spirit of boldness.
Yeah.
And I
guess coming from the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah, but that word is fear. It's not terror. It's awe. It's awe.
Yes, but it's also awe, but it's also awe at the power that could instantly burn you and crush you, right? Like it's an acknowledgement of your weakness at the same time. It's like being afraid of a king, right? Like you are in awe of the king, but the king can immediately just with one word, you're dead. So there is a fear associated with that too. I don't, like it's a fear out of humility. I'm not saying running in terror, but I'm saying recognizing your position with regard to God.
I wrote some stuff down a while ago, and this is if you have a minute, I just wanted to share it because it's interesting. About this, it's exactly about this. So, okay, it's about the fear of God. So I was watching a McGilchrist lecture from a number of years ago, actually, and a perception, according to McGilchrist. Oh gosh, my hair. Perception is transfigured through awe. So I was listening to this and I was remembering how Job says, I have heard of you, but now I have seen you. And, we know that he didn't see God because no one can see God and live, right? But he sees. So he perceives. And he perceives, McGilchrist is explaining this, and I'm like, this is exactly what happened to Job. And of course, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom is Job 28. Okay. So its perception is this is what McGilchrist says, transfigured through awe. So then I got really curious, and there's a verse, Proverbs 4:7, it says, then McGilchrist talks about understanding. And he says, understand is actually derived from unter in German, which means among. It can mean under, but it can also mean among. So you can say, in German, you can say, I'm sitting under the table, unter, or you can say, I am among my friends. Ich bin unter meine Freunden. I am among, right? So think about understanding as being among something instead of under it, which is really interesting. And then Proverbs 4:7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and in all you're getting, get understanding. Think about that as being among, standing among. Okay? It's communion, for one thing. You can think of it as communion. And then Proverbs 9:10 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. Standing among. So then I was like, I wonder what this word knowledge is translated as in the German Bible, because German has two words for knowing. One is wissen, which means to know something, right? And the other is kennen, which means to know someone. So in the Luther Bible, it is translated, der Weisheit Anfang ist des Herrn Furcht, und den Heiligen Erkennen ist Verstand. To know the Holy One is understanding. That's exactly how it's translated in German. But that's erkennen, which is kennen, which is to be in. So erkennen means to recognize, recognize. Okay. Like this just goes, it
Right.
goes nuts. But it is even more than that. It is to recognize through relationship. German has two words for knowledge, wissen and kennen. Often the definition for kennen includes the word familiar, right? Which is, of course, derived from family or familial. In other words, erkennen is to recognize someone you are related to. That's really what it is. So,
yeah, we're
here-
probably. I think we're talking. I don't think we're talking past each other. I think I'm probably talking about an earlier stage, kind of like I'm thinking of the parable of the prodigal son when he comes to himself, when he's with the swine, and then he comes to his father, and he's saying, "I'm willing to be your servant." And
But
I
just have to remind you of one thing, because I think a lot of people, I'm sorry, Jeremy, but a lot of people miss this part. He comes to himself and he says, I'm going to go to my father because I know my father treats his servants well.
right.
He's
But
not
I'm saying
afraid of any recompense from his father. He's misguided in that he thinks his father would accept him as a servant. That's how stupid he is.
No, that's how humble he is. That's where I'm coming from, Shari. There is, yes, yeah. There's the scripture in Hebrews. It says, "Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need." I was just reading today. I'm where he's saying, when you come to the Lord and say, I am helpless and hopeless and I cannot do this alone, God will be pleased with you and he will begin to rehabilitate you. But I'm saying, like, I think there is wisdom in there. I think you can have both at the same time. You can be afraid and in awe and grateful. It's like, keep your mind in hell, but despair not.
Oh yeah,
is kind of where I'm coming from.
I totally agree. Yeah.
But there is also an aspect of gratitude, right? Like there's kind of two paths. It's the keep your mind in hell and despair not, which is that idea of focusing on how you don't deserve even the next breath.
Here's the thing, though. I've argued this point before, and I never push back on Jeremy. So,
that's fine.
But I'm just going to say this because I've had this discussion before. I've heard people say that the prodigal son humbled himself, and I don't think he did, because you know what? Me and that other woman on the screen here, we had to go home as prodigal daughters, right? And we certainly didn't humble ourselves. We went there out of necessity, which is exactly what the prodigal son does. He's literally at the end of his rope. He has nowhere else to go. And he figures, and it says this, I'm going to go home because I know my father will at least treat his servants well. And then I won't have to sleep with the pigs and I'll be able to eat human food. Okay. His humility, his humbling happens when he is greeted by his father running towards him with a coat and a party. That's when he's humbled, because he still wasn't willing to humble himself. Actually, his father's love for him humbled him.
Yes. Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Because I don't think we can humble ourselves. I think God humbles us.
Well, we can recognize our true state.
Only when he walks in the room.
Yeah.
That's the awe, right? Only when he's there.
That's the understanding.
That's the king among. And
that's the among, which is what Joy mentioned earlier as well. is
The
is
withness?
the withness. Emmanuel,
Right.
God with us among. And so I guess what I'm hearing you say, Jeremy, is he came home, but I think what I'm hearing Sherry's talking about and is he wasn't willing to take his place with his father among.
Right. Among. He had no understanding of who he actually was. Right.
And he was told,
I
this
don't,
is,
I don't know if I agree with that, because he's saying, I just pulled up, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a misunderstanding. I think he came to an understanding of his true nature.
When does he say that, Jeremy? Just remind me. Is that when he meets his father?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
That's the humbling. That's the part where he gets humbled. It's not, he doesn't say that in his mind in the pigsty. In the pigsty, he comes up with a plan to not be in a pigsty. That's his plan.
But I still think there's a humility there. I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. He does say that in his head.
Okay.
He does say that before he goes.
Yeah.
And he arose and came to his father.
So maybe it wasn't the willingness to take his place as much as just the understanding that he had a place.
Well, the fact that he thinks he can take the place of a servant means he doesn't have any understanding.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, because the whole point of the story is that he's the son of the father.
Mm-hmm.
And that can never be lost, that inheritance. Okay? That's why the father gives him a party.
Well, this is on a tangent, but I think it could have been lost if he wouldn't have came to himself and came to his father.
Well, yeah.
He had already squandered his inheritance, and the only reason he was given hope is because he did humble himself and come back.
Mm-hmm.
It was there waiting for him, but he didn't have to come back.
Well, I mean, he was in a pigsty, and the only place he could think of where he could get a roof over his head and a meal.
There's a lot of other places you can go. You can go.
I don't know. It doesn't
in
look like
vineyard.
he had a lot of places to go because he was in a pigsty. He didn't have any friends left. He probably burnt all his bridges. Anyway.
Well, we're reading into the story. We don't know that.
No, but I mean, the story does say he's in a pigsty.
Correct. I've been in a pigsty and still didn't go to my house.
Yeah. I've been in a pigsty and went to my house because it was my only other option, and I didn't want to go.
Right. And I'm saying we don't know that that's the case here. We don't know that he didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm. True.
So, but no, I understand the idea of like that God loves us and wants to care for us and wants to extend mercy. But I'm also coming from that idea of like, if you want to go up, you need to go down. Right. And so by humbling yourself, God will raise you up. And by recognizing your absolute weakness and complete dependence on him is when he begins to reach out and form a relationship with you, and you begin to learn that you can trust him and love him, and that he will take care of you, and he is taking care of you, and that even when you're suffering, he's taking care of you.
Okay, well, I'm going to challenge you again, because here's the question I've asked myself. How do you humble yourself when you don't know who you are? See, the prodigal son finds out who he is when the father runs to him with the coat and kills the fatted calf. And then everything, all the dominoes start to collapse, right? Everything kind of falls into place. So, the thing I fear, Jeremy, about the humble yourself thing is spiritual pride. I mean, Jesus accused the Pharisees of false humility all the time.
Right.
And I think that that's a very slippery little trap, because, you know, like all other words out there, we all have our own definition of what that means to be humbled, right? What does humble mean? Does it mean I get down and prostrate? Does it mean I give up something for Lent? What does it mean? And
it's that right there. I will arise and go to my father. I'll go stand in front of my icon corner,
right.
and I'll say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.
Yeah.
It's recognizing your fallen nature. It's recognizing your true state. It's recognizing that you are completely dependent on God for even every breath. We can do nothing alone.
Well,
I don't think there's anything spiritually dangerous about recognizing that.
Well, he says it. He says to his father, Father, I've sinned against heaven and earth before, no longer being worthy to be called your son. And then verse 22 says, but the father said to his servants, bring quickly the best robe and put it on him.
Yes,
put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet.
Yes, but he had to do this first. If he would have come home to his dad and said, hey, I'm your son, I'm back. What up? Can I have some more money?
Yeah, he didn't do anything, Jeremy, except ruin his life. And can you move those colored things? His father saw him and felt compassion and ran and embraced him and kissed him.
Right.
So he could have turned around
again. He did his confession.
Yeah. He was still a long way off. In other words, he could have left again. Okay. He could have said, I can't do this now. I'm not doing it.
Right.
I'll just figure it out. But his father ran to him. Okay. I have to point these things.
No, I agree with you, but you're also skipping what he did before he got there. He had already begun to humble himself and was willing to take whatever humiliation that his father was going to hand out to him.
Well, did he humble himself, or was he humbled?
Yes.
He was stating a fact.
Yes, that's true. Yes, that's what I'm saying. He became aware of his true state.
There you go. I can accept, Jeremy. The humble yourself stuff, I just don't like it.
Well, it's the same thing. That's my point.
I don't think it is.
Recognizing your true state is humble, because you realize that you are completely broken and dependent on God. That is what humility is. Humility is recognizing your absolute dependence on God.
I think that's humility, but what comes to my mind is the rich young ruler. Was it him?
Mm-hmm.
He was very aware of his state, and then Jesus invited him to walk with him, and he left. He turned around and walked away.
Well,
so that comes to my mind.
There's a slightly different take on that story. We've actually talked about that. There was a guy who is Orthodox, but he's also he runs funds for very wealthy people. He runs like their mutual funds, like takes care of their finances. And he said there is an alternate take of that story that he found in the tradition, and it's the idea that the rich young ruler, it's not that he rejected Christ, it's that because he was so wealthy, it actually would probably take him most of his life to actually get rid of his stuff. And he actually shared a story of a woman who was a saint, who she married an emperor, and she was also like royalty from another empire, and they joined together. And she heard that story. She was like 18, and she heard the story of the young rich ruler, and she felt convicted and said, I have to do that. And like her family fought her, and said, "What are you doing?" And but she was the emperor's wife, so she could do whatever she wanted. No one could really stop her, but a lot of people were like trying to appeal to the bishop to get her to stop. And it took her whole, and like her servants were coming to her and saying, "We're dependent on you. Why are you doing this? Why are you selling everything? Why are you selling the farms? We've been serving your family for 200 years. We don't want you to do this." And it took her whole life, because she was so wealthy, to sell everything that she had, but eventually did, because she felt convicted by that story. So I don't necessarily, like in the text, it's not necessarily clear that he rejected Christ. It's that he felt the weight of what he was being called to do, and that it probably, we don't know what he did. We don't know whether he did, but there is another story of a saint in a tradition who it took her whole life to do it. And that's why he may have reacted the way he did, realizing what Christ was asking him to do. It wasn't just like, put it on Facebook and everything's gone tomorrow, right? It was like, when you have lands and you have servants and you have people who are depending on you and you have businesses, it's who's going to buy it? That's the other thing. Only very few people can buy or even buy parts of it, because if you're so wealthy, there's no one else who has the money to take you to buy your stuff, right? So he was just saying, these are some of the things that we've also seen in tradition, like of another saint who did actually go through with it. And we have a record of her doing it, and it was very difficult for her, and she met a lot of resistance to the idea. So anyway, that might be a tangent too, but
yeah, I never heard that side before.
Yeah,
there's also the tradition that the rich young ruler was Barnabas, and I've thought about the rich young ruler as well, and being poetic in nature. I thought, what's interesting about that story is that it doesn't describe him as a rich ruler. It describes him as a rich young ruler.
Mm-hmm.
And that means something. He doesn't have to be young. He could be, but they mention it, right? And tradition has it that Barnabas sold everything when he got old and gave it to the poor. So I thought about this, and I thought, that's interesting, because I've had lots of conversations with young people, and I'm not young anymore. And when I tell them, you just, like you said earlier, Tracy, just got to wait for it. It'll come, right? Young people don't want to hear that.
right.
They don't want to hear that. And so what that encounter of the rich young ruler is interesting, because he says he wants to do, what more can I do? What can I do? What can I do? I want to be good. And Jesus says to him, well, just keep the commandments. He goes, well, I'm doing that. He goes, well, then you're fine. That's what a young person has to do, right? They got to start there at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then he presses Christ. No. I want to know more, right? There's got to be something else I can do. And then Jesus essentially tells him the end of his life. And then he goes away sad, because when you tell a young person, as an older person, what it's like toward the end, that's not going to be satisfactory. Mm. They have the energy of youth and vigor, and they want to conquer and climb mountains and, do all the things, right? They don't want to wait. They don't want retrospect. They don't want to find out when they don't want to know that after 50 years, they'll know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to know that. They want to know now. And that's exactly what this young man does. And what clued me into that was that it says rich young ruler. I'm like, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very passionate young man with some of that fighting spirit, change the world kind of guy, right? Which all young men. And then Jesus shows him his old man. And that old man makes him sad, because how can a young man imagine selling everything that he has? Because with what he has, he could change the world. You got to get old to realize you're not changing the world, my friend. Might as well sell it.
Less of me, more of you. That's how we change the world. Yeah.
Anyway, I hope I didn't.
That's good.
Upset you, Jeremy. I don't think so, but
no. These things are good to talk
two
about.
Parables, the rich young ruler and the prodigal son. I've thought about them deeply, and I could be projecting all my own things onto them. I'm sure I am to a certain extent.
Well, we're called to. I mean, that's part of understanding the scriptures is applying them to our own life, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's out of line. I get it, but you just have to be careful with not reading too much into it that's not there. But and I hear where you're coming from. I hear the line you're coming from. Really, I do. I've personally found a lot of value in, because I'm prone to pride of thinking like I grew up, because I was young and I had to figure everything out on my own. Those habits formed very deeply in me that I needed to, like, I could figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older and recognized my dependence on Christ, he has begun to heal me, but it doesn't take long of him healing me before I start going, oh yeah, I got this. It's like Peter, right? Walking on the water, and like, God called to me and I'm sure I can do it. And Christ is like, oh, come on. And he hops out and he's like, hey, I'm walking on the water. Right? Like that is like my life right there. That's what happens to me. And it's, and where I'm coming from is the moment right after Peter falls in the water and he cries out, Lord, save me. And Christ lifts him up. And I think that's where I have to stay. I have to stay with my head with the water here and me going, Lord, save me.
But don't forget, Jeremy,
I am prone to going, oh, I can walk on water.
I feel compelled to say this to you. Don't forget that the Pharisees asked Christ why he didn't fast, why him and his disciples were not fasting. And he said to them, you do not fast when the bridegroom is with you. Right?
Yeah.
Nathan Jacob, is it Nathan Jacobs? Yeah, Nathan Jacobs, on his last post on his channel, he told these stories. I think it's St. Cassian. And St. Cassian was a monk, and I don't know when exactly, I can't remember. But he shows up at a monastery, and he's a young monk, and he, note the word young, okay? And he's very ambitious in his service to God. And he gets to this monastery, and there's an old man sitting out there at the gate, and the old man says, what do you want? And he says, I want to come in here and I want to serve God. And, and so he opens the door and lets him in, and he takes him to the dining area, and it's empty. And he sits him down at one of the benches, and then he goes, you stay here. And he leaves. And St. Cassian's like, what is this? Is this a test? Because he's a young guy, right?
Yeah.
He wants to know what's happening. What do I do? What do I do? Right. And then after a few hours, all the monks come in, and they're carrying huge platters of food, and they fill up the whole table. And then they just start eating. And St. Cassian's like, this is a test. What is happening? Because it's during a fast. And he's like, what is happening? These guys are demonic. All this stuff is going through his mind. Nathan tells the story so well. And the abbot was the old man at the gate. He was the abbot, and he's at the head of the table. And he says, son, you're not eating. What's happening? He says, what are you doing? You're from the halls of hell, kind of thing. He goes, you're tempting me and it's a fast, And then the abbot says, we always have the fast, but we don't always have you. Right?
Yeah.
Now we will feast because we have you. And that's exactly what Jesus said. That was the template for what that abbot did, actually. The Pharisees are like, why are you not fasting? This is the kind of false humility that I have to guard myself against. Because it's just another form of pride, and it's even worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would rather be proud of something that I have accomplished and then fall in a mud puddle and get, really dirty and all that stuff, than have some kind of form of spiritual pride. I have to guard myself against that. I don't know why. Yeah. We're all different.
Right.
But so I just know for myself that I'm deeply suspicious of that.
Well, and I do hear when you are thinking about that and like, I'm dependent or I'm completely broken, it can very easily slip into despair. And despair is a form of pride where you go, I'm irredeemable, right? Like, God can't save me.
Yeah, and you can't stay. But the thing is, though, you can't stay there. Like, this is the story of the paralytic. Take up your bed and walk.
Right. Keep your mind in hell and despair not.
Do you believe? Do you want to be healed? These are the things Jesus is saying to people.
Right. Yeah. Well, and like I said, so I've been reading Saint Sophrony lately, and he was saying there's the two paths, and then one is keep your mind in despair not, keep your mind in hell and despair not. And he said that works for certain people, but it can lead to despair. And the other path is gratitude for everything.
That's constantly. That's me. That's my path.
Constant gratitude.
Yeah.
Always.
Right? Always. Constant gratitude. Yeah. That's good night, Tracy.
Yeah, we got to go too. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks for coming.
Tracy.
Thanks for joining us. Sorry we didn't give you more chance to talk. Shari and I we started wrestling.
We had our first fight.
Oh my gosh, if that's a fight, then
No, I enjoyed listening, and I logged on to listen, which might have been weird, but
no, I'm glad you joined us. I love it, sister.
I enjoy it, and I love what you're doing. So please don't stop ever.
Well, glory to God.
Good night.
God willing, we'll do it as long as we can. All right.
Talk to you soon, Trace. I'm done my sweater, Trace, so my do not disturb sign is off.
That's great.
Your sweater's over the top. Yeah. Okay. Good night, you guys.
Good night. I got to get going too. I got to get to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm not upset at all. I think it's a great conversation.
No, me either, Jeremy. I think we can do it's jousting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're looking at it from different points of view and sharing, bringing things out that the other one didn't see. And we're both, I think that's I don't think.
Yeah. And I have to say, just to clarify, like, I'm fully aware that we are, like you said earlier, interpreting these stories from our own experience with God, right? So, and we have to know what God requires of us, we have to discern that ourselves.
Yeah.
So, but I just, I always think, that's why I said to you, I have to say these things too, just in case.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, no, I don't mind the pushback at all. And you are more familiar with the scriptures than I am in many ways. And so I welcome these conversations, and I think we both take something away from it. At least I do. So
I've learned
conversation.
I've learned myriads of things from you, Jeremy. I'm very grateful.
Well, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks a lot, Shari. Have a good night. And thanks, audience, for joining us and being part of our stream. God bless you.
Yeah.
And God willing,
Night
we'll be here next week. Oh, wait, not next week. I'm going to be out of town. So, anyway, not next week, following week. So, fun. All right.
Night, Joy.
All right. Have a good night.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.